Now to the most important part of every show. Elder fraud is costing our seniors billions with a B. Today's guest, I was fortunate enough to see speak at the Movers and Shakers, which I can't recommend that group enough. They bring in some excellent speakers, including today's guest. He's retired Miami-Dade Police Lieutenant Efren Lopez. He served as the Major Fraud Unit Commander for 10 years, but he was there for far more than 10 years. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm looking forward. It was your lecture that day was a little frightening. Fraud in our country right now.
It is. It's very frightening, and the amount of fraud just continues to climb.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we find that individuals that are 65 and over are the biggest victims. That community, 1 in 12 become a victim of fraud.
Wow.
And currently, only 4% of those cases are solved. 4%. That's a shocking number.
That's scary. That's what I
And-
have goosebumps. That is. Oh,
Yeah. And there's difficulties. There's no one to blame for it.
Sure.
I mean, the priority for law enforcement is always violent crimes.
sure.
So when it comes to fraud, it's one, they're very difficult. They're constantly changing through the years. One type of fraud that was popular 3 years ago is gone now, and now they've developed
Right.
a new type or style.
They're clever.
They are very clever.
They adjust,
So
improvise.
the several individuals that we arrested down in Miami, we interviewed them only to try to figure out why and how they came up with
Sure.
it, because we have the evidence to already arrest them. But it was just interesting so that we can get the insight
Right.
on how they come up with these different schemes. But the numbers for 2023 has been released by the FTC,
FTC.
Federal Trade Commission.
Oh, very good.
And sorry, I forget. The
I understand.
acronyms
I
sometimes.
understand.
So the total amount of fraud that was reported last year was 5.4 million cases, with estimated losses of $10 billion with a B. But the FTC advises that they believe that number is extremely low because of the majority of the victims are over 65. And as we get older,
May not even recognize it.
well, the problem is they don't want to admit that they've been scammed.
Sure.
And they don't want to have their children think that they can't handle their own finances. So
Right.
that's a
I
true
understand that.
concern for them, so they may not report it at all.
But reported is 10 billion. What we know of is 10 billion.
They
That's
estimate that
phenomenal.
number could be probably 4 times that.
Incredible.
And that is very scary.
That is.
Especially when you're over 65, because majority you've saved so you can retire and that you can retire comfortably.
Right.
Now these individuals are taking that away from you.
Right.
So that security is gone. Not to mention that concern and feeling violated.
There are two protected classes to me in the Bible. One of them is children, and the other one is widows, older people. May God have mercy on these people. I wouldn't. One of my favorite quotes is, "May God have mercy upon you, for I will have none," by Patton.
Yeah.
God may have mercy on it, but if I caught one of them stealing from the elderly in this country, it's just disgusting. What type of scams are they seeing out there?
So this past year, we noticed a significant increase, and these are the top type of
Right.
fraud or scams that are going
Wait
on.
1 second. This isn't a how-to-do class, Packy. So put your pen and pad down. This isn't teaching you what to do.
No, by all means. So even though it may take a little bit, but you'll get caught eventually. So
Yes.
All right. So the top fraud is imposters, online shopping, prize sweepstakes and lotteries, investment fraud, And then the latest one that's coming up is the romance dating fraud.
How does that work?
So the romance dating is you have everybody wants to be social. And in that is part of maybe dating
Sure.
or joining social groups and so on like that. A lot of it, especially after COVID, is done online. Well, these individuals will set up these fake accounts and they'll join these dating
Right. Services.
services and they'll befriend you, they'll start talking with you, you get some confidence going, then they say, hey, you know what, let's give me your phone number and I'll text you or I'll go and I'll email you off of this app.
Right.
So now the app doesn't have a way of tracking it. The individual starts emailing and so on. So that
Directly.
relationship starts to build.
Sure.
Then all of a sudden, they they're letting them know they can't visit them because they're working on an oil rig or they're in the military and they're overseas or they live overseas. And then they're going to ask you for financial support for a health issue or to actually get plane tickets or pay for a visa to come and visit you.
Wow.
So that's the start of it. And once you start realizing that they're asking you and trying to get you to send them money,
Right.
that should be the first red flag.
Hear that, folks? When that person you've really never met is asking you for money through the internet, big red flag. You mentioned imposters. What are we? Well, that I guess kind of a form of imposters. What kind of when you mention imposter? What are we?
So the
looking for
imposter
there?
scams are, and they cover different areas. It's individuals that will actually copy a website, and it'll be a government, state, local, federal government website. Right? They'll copy it, and then they'll go ahead and try to entice you by them calling you, texting you, and when they call you, they actually show the number as a federal agency or a local agency. Because you can go
Right.
ahead and on a cell phone, you can show it as
Sure.
whatever
Oh, that's
person
clever.
or company.
Clever.
So then they go and they reach out to individuals, such as they'll say they're from the IRS or from, and they'll inform you that you owe the IRS a significant amount of money.
Today's guest is retired Miami-Dade Police Lieutenant Efren Lopez, who served as the Major Fraud Unit Commander for a little over or some period over 10 years. We were talking about government imposter fraud.
Yeah, so the common, especially this time of the year with
Sure.
your tax returns are due and so on like that, there'll be individuals that will contact you, say that they're representing the IRS and that you owe them money and that you must pay it immediately.
I get that every year, and I'm still not in jail yet, so
Well, I mean, all the time, you're first going to get a letter,
sure.
and the letter is going to tell you, and it's going to inform you of the issue and the amount that's owed and so on like that, and the process, all right, and how to appeal it and so on like that. They will not call you and demand you to give them a credit card, gift card,
Sure.
Stuff like that, or
Our
even
government
threaten.
likes cash, is the
Yes.
point there, folks.
They do, and they will not threaten to arrest you either. So, and that's another part of the scheme is they really go after the elderly and telling them that they're going to arrest them if they don't pay this. So they panic and
Sure,
and
sure.
give them the
Oh,
money.
yeah.
The other aspect of it is very popular nowadays, especially with the elderly, is the Social Security fraud. So they will reach out to you and say that they made an overpayment and that you owe them money, or they may go and say, "I can give you more benefits for your Social Security." So, and then they're going to ask all this personal information, which they're going to use to
Sure.
commit other fraud, identity theft, and so on. So Same thing for Social Security office. They're going to send you a letter first before they reach out to you. Actually, most government agencies won't even reach out to you unless you've already reached out to them first
Very good.
and
Good
you
tip.
received a letter.
Good tip. What are some of the other forms of imposter fraud that you're saying?
So the big one is what they call the grandparent fraud. So you're going to get a phone call, and in there, it's going to sound like your grandchild and or another relative, and that they're in a bad situation. It's an emergency, and they need money immediately. They're going to know your information. They're going to know your grandchild's information because everybody posted on Facebook. So we all want to share good information
Sure.
about what's going on in our life and all that, but sometimes we share too much info. And when you share too much info, the fraudsters are going to use it against you.
Very good.
So, and if you look at your Facebook account, you may have your phone number in there, your email address, your date of birth, you know, where you originated from, where you currently live at. That's a treasure for
Right.
these fraudsters. They'll use every bit of it. All right.
Grandpa, it's little Timmy. I'm locked up in Mexico. Can you send me $1,000?
Yeah, and they'll have so much background noise that it's hard for you to tell, but they're also using AI to go ahead and make a voice sound similar, even with accents and
Wow.
so on like that. So if you're Cuban like I am,
Sure.
you know, they may have somebody call with a Cuban accent,
Very good.
right, and
Right.
talk to you with the Cuban dialect as well. So the other item we've been noticing quite a bit, and my sister fell for this, and then she called me afterwards, and I corrected her and told her never do that again, is tech support fraud. All of a sudden, you get an email, and it looks legitimate. It may be from Google, may Microsoft, and they say that there's something going on with your computer. You call that number instead of looking up Microsoft's number. You call the number that's on that email, and you end up speaking to somebody, and they're going to go ahead and charge you for to correct that issue or to give them access to your computer. And what does most people have in their computer? All their financial
Sure.
information and
Good
so on.
Lord.
So then they're defrauded that way as well.
Let's jump to, we're down to about 3 minutes. Let's jump on to something I think is pretty prevalent out there is online shopping fraud.
Yes. So this is a biggie. And people fall for this because they found that social media is a great way to sell their products because you see a video, you see the demonstration, and they entice you and so on like that. And they will set up these fake accounts with Etsy, Poshmark, Facebook Marketplace. And basically, what they're doing is they're selling you a counterfeit product, or they're not selling you anything, but you believe you're receiving, you know, an item that, you know, a nice set of ping golf clubs that are $2,000, and what you're getting is anything, maybe something.
It sounds like it's a high-tech version of buying a Rolex or Rolex watch.
Yes, absolutely. And so with that, but also the individuals who are selling items on Facebook Marketplace, they are becoming victims as well. So these fraudsters will tell them that they're interested in the product and so on like that. Go ahead and send it, and then they take off with it. You never got
Right.
payment or anything else, or they'll send you a check and it's a bad check. You know, it's, or they may do some check kiting, which is just a different way of banking fraud.
Real quick,
Yes,
because
sir.
we're down to about 2 minutes. What recommendations would you give for folks out there? How can we protect ourselves or our elderly relatives?
So the best way to do is verify everything. If you go to a website, look up on top, and the website
URL.
should have HTTPS because S means it's secured. If it's not secured. So don't put any personal information on there. If it's a truly government agency, it will end up with .gov. When you make online purchases, use a credit card. That's the best way to protect yourself. Somebody asks you for a gift card and then they ask you for the number in the back of the gift card, they're going to deplete that gift card. All right. Don't do it. All right. If somebody asks you to wire them money, the banks are doing a very good job to make it difficult for you to wire somebody money or to transfer peer to peer because they're trying to protect you.
Sure.
Even though my daughter works at the bank, she tells me how some individuals get very upset with her, but she's following a process to take care of you. So those are just some minor things. But if you believe that you've been defrauded, don't be afraid to report it. Please report it. Because what you're doing is not only are you taking care of yourself, but you're taking care of others. And this is where it's important. Because if we can arrest these guys, that'll stop it.
Folks, so appreciate you tuning in. I found this very interesting and very helpful in my daily life. Thank you so much for listening, as always.